Hi, I'm Ginger-Ketting Weller. I'm the president of AIIAS, the Adventist International Institute of Advanced Studies, and this is People of AIIAS, where we get to hear the stories of some of our graduate students in the graduate school and seminary here. And for this session, I am interviewing Ingrid Oberholster. Ingrid, tell us where you're from and what program you're in.
So originally I'm from South Africa, but I'm a third culture kid, TCK, and I have lived in 7 countries, some of them multiple times. And I have worked in 3 countries so far. I am doing the Masters of Business Administration program, or the MBA, as it's affectionately known.
Yes.
And I'm nearing the end of my program. Yeah.
Your passport country is?
South Africa.
South Africa, okay.
Yeah.
And the reason that you came to AIIAS when you were in first grade, if you can just give a little context.
Yeah. So my dad had been the principal, or headmaster as we call them, at Anderson School in Zimbabwe, and he had decided that he wanted to upgrade, get a little bit more education and broaden his horizons a bit. And so at the time, this was in 1997, we decided to move to the Philippines, to AIIAS, which we had never heard of the Philippines at that point. Yeah. And we came, and they've been here ever since, except for 1 year.
They have, and he's one of the administrators, and so your roots go very deep here at AIIAS.
Yes, they do.
I wanted to interview you specifically because you were from, well, your passport country is a part of the world that we don't tap into, or we haven't tapped into. And the other thing being that you have so much experience living in many different countries. So one would imagine that that would help you to be more comfortable here at AIIAS. Am I right in that assumption? Or is there, talk to us about that.
Okay. You know, AIIAS for me is home in many ways. I grew up here. I spent most of my childhood here, most of my developmental years here. I'm very familiar with the place, with the surrounding areas. But AIIAS has really shaped me into the person that I am. I think a lot of it has to do with dealing with multicultural situations. Yeah. So whether that's for work or for school or even, you know, individually, my friends are spread out across the globe. And they are, most of them are also TCKs, but it has helped me understand just how international the world is and how to deal with the globalization. I don't think, to me it's normal, but there's many people who don't see this life as normal at all. Understanding not just a culture because you've read about it, but experiencing it through somebody else, you know, through your friends and your colleagues and the people that you work with. Yeah.
Now, your passport is South Africa.
Yes.
You came here from Zimbabwe.
Yes.
So you've lived on the continent of Africa in a number of countries. You have lived here in the Philippines and experienced Asia, but I think you've also collected North America, correct?
Yes. So when we moved here, we then moved to Palau. Let me go in order. Okay. We moved to Palau, which is in Micronesia. Then we moved back to the Philippines, and then I went to school in Kenya. And then for college, I went to the US.
Okay. So you have 3 continents, put together so far. Middle East is?
Asia.
Asia, more or less.
Yes.
It's right in that crossroads with Europe and so on. Yeah, yeah. Great.
I feel like the regions should be separated then from the continents.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So with all of that experience, you chose to come back here and do your MBA. I'm just kind of curious why. Why here rather than a new place? Because third culture kids are known for collecting new places. So why did you come back home for the MBA?
So I have to admit that it was not in my plan. In fact, I was pretty dead set against coming back to AIIAS for graduate education. Not because of the quality of education, obviously, but just because, you know, I wanted something new, something different. I had been here for too many years, in my opinion, and I needed to leave. I was on my way to another job, actually, and I stopped by to see my parents. And I was supposed to have left within 3 weeks of getting here. Within about 2 weeks of getting here, I had applied and registered for a program. So there was a job waiting for me that would also offer me to do my MBA for free. And I was very excited about the opportunity. I was excited that I was going to be in a new place. It's a new country for me. I was excited for the opportunities that were going to be there. And God had different plans. You know, I thought that's where He wanted me to go. I was very excited about it. And then He made it clear in His own way that this is exactly where I was supposed to be. He opened doors for me that I thought were sealed shut, and I'd never even considered it, actually. And he offered, he made the opportunity available, which I wasn't expecting. So when it first came to me, I was very hesitant to accept it. And then I thought about it some more, and I was like, oh, maybe, you know, this is the right place to do it. I really, really appreciated that the AIIAS program had more credits, which most people, I guess, wouldn't consider that a good thing. But for me, I wanted a more round view, because I don't have a business background. I have a communication background. And so this was an entirely new field for me, and I thought the more I could get exposed to it, the better, you know, through classes. I also really enjoy the multicultural environment.
Yeah.
You don't get this anywhere else in the world. No matter where you go, you know, there are going to be a few cultures mixed in there, but not at the level that AIIAS has. You know, I know at one point, I don't know how many countries it is now, but at one point AIIAS had about 80 countries represented among their students and staff. And that is so unusual for any institution.
It is.
You know, I go to class and I have about 7 people in my class maybe, and they were all from 6 different countries. So there's nowhere in the world that I've had this level of internationalism in one place. Nowhere. Yeah.
Now, you talked about that you were headed somewhere else.
Yes.
So in essence, you were a reluctant entrant.
I was.
Into the MBA program here at
was.
AIIAS. Talk to me a little bit about God's leading in your life then.
Okay.
You don't need to give the specifics of how this happened
Yeah.
necessarily, but how does that happen in your life, that you get into these reluctant places?
In my experience, and I'll say this all the way from the beginning till now, I found that God has plans for my life, and he sometimes takes me to places that I go kicking and screaming. I really do. And I'm like, you know, this isn't right for me, or this is not where I want to be. And he insists that this is actually where I'm supposed to be. And he always does it through the most unconventional ways, where I'm not expecting it. Sometimes it's through random comments. Sometimes it's through people who I don't even know coming up to me and saying, you know, this is what you should be doing. Sometimes it's through opportunities opening that I would never, ever have imagined. You know, when I was here working at AIIAS, I never planned to go to the Middle East. That was not on my radar at all. I've always said Southeast Asia and Central, East, or Southern Africa. Those are my comfort areas. And I was like, those are kind of the areas I want to learn more about and be in. And that's not the plan that God has had for me. So even then, when the opportunity came up for the Middle East, he put people in my path where the first few times, you know, they came up, I was like, no. I'm like, no, I'm good here. I'm enjoying AIIAS. I'm growing. I'm happy where I am. No, I'm good. I don't need to move. And then he kept insisting, and I was like, okay, you know, if this is something that you feel strongly about, then maybe it's something I should feel strongly about. So, and the same thing happened with Maxwell.
So it's lots of little shaping things that come along.
For me, God has never been, how should I say this? He's never struck me with lightning. It's always been a series of little things. You know, I've always believed in the concept that life is made up of pixels. So I'm a creative, and part of that is photography, part of that is design and words. And I always believe that God speaks to us because our life is in pixels. So pixels make up a picture, obviously, millions of them, usually. And in that case, I always feel like God leads in the most, sometimes minute ways that really open up things and make you aware. And the pixels that change, if you've ever seen a picture with a pixel missing, you'll know, you know, it seems so insignificant, but it really makes the biggest difference in the overall picture. And that's kind of how I think my relationship with God has gone, and even my relationship with life in general, you know. My life is made up of pixels, tiny pixels.
And when you back up, you see the whole picture that you don't see up close.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, the jobs that I've held and the positions that I've been in, or even just in personal growth, the things I've decided to do have been a collection of pixels. Things that I would never even pair together. Suddenly, you know, oh, this is where that comes in. You know, I thought that was random and it had no connection whatsoever. But the older I get, the more I see the connections between those pixels. So AIIAS has been a huge part of that.
Piece of that.
And God has really used those pixels to create a picture, which I'm so sure he's not done with, because I don't think I would be here today if he was done with me.
So speaking of that, what do you think you're going to be doing with your MBA, or what do you dream of doing? What is your thought? Because graduation's probably within the next year.
So I don't want to go into business, ironically. The reason I decided to do an MBA was because it provided a lot of management skills that I thought would complement my communication background. Communication is really where my heart is. You know, relationships with people, writing, speaking,
producing.
Preparing.
I've seen you do
producing as well.
Yeah,
that's event planning. That's a huge passion of mine. Those are things I really love and I'm passionate about. And I really wanted the MBA to complement that. So the management skills that I'm learning are not necessarily because I want to be a manager, you know, but they are helping me develop my communication skills. Every class that I've gone through in some way, shape or form has helped that dream. So do I have a dream job? No, I don't. I don't have a dream job. I don't have a place that I want to move to. God has always led in the past, and I'm not completely leaving it up to him, but I am very open to where he wants me to go next.
That will be interesting to watch.
It will be for me too. So I'm at the point, you know, where I'm open and I'm praying that he leads and guides. But at this point, I can't say that I have a specific dream or a specific dream job even.
Now, you've spoken to this a little bit in what you've shared with us so far, but as we think about AIIAS's mission, it's to develop leaders.
Yes.
And so as we think about the development of leadership, how have you experienced that in your academic journey here?
Okay. You know, like I said, I'm a product of AIIAS from grade 1 all the way through. And I think that AIIAS has shaped me a lot further than just graduate education. It started when I was a child in the elementary school here. You know, those are the foundational years where the foundations of your education are really made.
Yes.
And so I think the experiences that I had from then of interacting with people from different cultures, that has been a huge thing. In terms of leadership as well, because you're leading multicultural teams. With globalization the way that it is today, you know, you can have a designer all the way from Canada. You can have an event planner from, I don't know, Georgia. You know, you can have people from all over the world, and you're trying to put this team together. And cultures is a lot like personalities, I find. You know, multicultural settings are very similar to multi-personality settings.
Good point.
In the sense that you understand everybody is different, everybody is coming from a different point of view, and your job is to bring them together and to unify them. Not necessarily in thought, but in the way that they can work together. So that has been very helpful. In terms of my graduate school and graduate education, I have had some leadership positions here at AIIAS, minor leadership positions, that have helped me grow my leadership skills practically. I am currently the ABC President, which is the business club here at AIIAS. And during this pandemic, we've been able to host a few webinars, which I'm really excited about, because it has helped us reach people who never necessarily had access to some of the content that we've been producing. So, you know, when you get emails from them and they say, oh, we really appreciated this webinar and it's opened my eyes, or it's helped me in this and this, it's so reaffirming. Yeah, that, you know, this is something that is not a waste of time and that it's actually helpful. I think a lot of the leadership is done outside of the classroom, to be honest with you. The classroom gives you the skills that you need, but it's up to you what you do with those skills and how you use them for leadership. So leadership isn't always in positions. You know, like I've talked about ABC, that's obviously a position. Right. But I think that a lot of the leadership is in how you interact with people, how people see you, what people gather from who you are and what you share with them non-verbally as well as verbally. And so every class, like I said, every class that I've taken in one way, shape, or form has added to that. Yeah.
I think that probably this has been the best way to develop that in some ways, because you are a third culture kid, which means that you have grown up in a country that is not your own, is not your parents' country, and so you have learned to move between cultures very easily. That's what a third culture kid does, and that's what every child of a graduate student who is attending AIIAS becomes a third culture kid. They have lived in a country that is not their parents' country, and yet we know from the research that third culture kids develop these skills of going between cultures that are really valuable then eventually in their life experiences, to corporations, to government, and so on. So
Definitely.
I'm hearing that in what you have shared with us, is that you've been able to put those to work in some places already, but I have a feeling that it will happen more in the future too.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the leaders that I look up to actually are products of being, or are TCKs. A lot of them have had experiences outside of their home country in their developing years, where they encounter different cultures and they learn from different cultures. You yourself are a TCK.
I am, yes.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that, you know, non-TCKs can't lead or are not effective leaders.
Yeah.
But I think that the skill set that comes along naturally with being a TCK helps you for leadership, which I think is the benefit of AIIAS, having children on campus.
Yes.
You know, AIIAS is a very friendly, child-friendly, family-friendly environment.
Yeah.
Where we're very much like a community. We all raise the kids together, even though the
like
parents are in charge. Yeah,
Yeah.
really, like it is like that. But when you see those kids and who they become, they're such an important part of the world, of the work, particularly within the Adventist church. You know, a lot of those kids go on to be leaders.
Yes.
And a lot of their AIIAS experiences have shaped them and made them ready for those positions. So for me, it's really exciting to see that we do much more here than just graduate education. We are developing leaders, whether those are 5-year-old leaders or 47-year-old leaders, or, you know, no matter what your age is, we're developing leaders here on campus.
Yeah, and you make a good point that in a world that is so globalized, we need leaders with those skills for the church.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
In and outside of the church.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, both places.
Globalization has really taken off, and especially now with COVID, I think it's important that we recognize how important those leaders are. Because now you can have a team working from multiple countries, you know, where you're not even in the same culture.
Right.
Because when you go to a culture, you adapt and you learn how to adjust. But oftentimes when you're in a different culture, living in a different culture, you're adjusted to that culture, not where you are physically present.
And then actually you find yourself thinking in a box when you could be thinking more broadly if you're working with a team from many different countries.
Yeah. And we have the advantage here at AIIAS of having international graduates. So for example, for our one webinar that we just finished, Christ's Methods of Management, we had speakers from all over the world that we wouldn't have had the opportunity of if everything was if everything wasn't shut down.
Yes.
You know? But AIIAS alumni are very willing to give back. And that's one of the things that I love about AIIAS, is the alumni are really in love with the place.
Yes.
And it's not just, oh, this was an amazing school, oh, I had a great academic life. It goes so much further beyond the classroom.
Yeah. Part of what makes this place special.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you so much, Ingrid. May the Lord bless you as you finish up. We're excited to see what you do next. And thank you for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you. It's great to be here.